Welcome, everybody, to the City of Farmers Branch City Council study session for Tuesday, September 16th. It is 4 o'clock. However, we do not have a quorum at this time, so we're going to have to take a break, take a pause until we do have quorum. So I expect that to be maybe in about 30 minutes. So we will come back then. We're back, and let the record note that Councilwoman Villafranca is on via Zoom. So thank you for joining us today. So we will continue on. First up is our public comments on study session items. I don't have anybody signed up to speak, I don't believe. So moving on. First item will be C1, review and discuss consent and regular agenda items. Councilwoman Bennett.
I have nothing, thank you.
Councilman Reed.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Mayor, can you say what Omar's joining?
Let the record show Councilman Roman is now joining via Zoom also. Councilman Neal.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions regarding J13 and J14.
Okay.
Hello, Meredith Dowdy with the Tourism Department.
Hi, Meredith. Thank you.
Hi.
I'm just curious. I like the approach you're taking here with getting some funds from the state to help us with this, but I'm a little curious about if you can share with us what our net proceeds to the city have been in a previous year or previous 2 years. Is it more than the $96,000 potential obligation that we might be on the hook
Yes.
for this year? Can you share some light on that?
So we have an economic impact that's quite large. I can pull that report and bring it with us to the regular meeting or send it out. But yes, it's
Just like a ballpark number, last year we made X amount of worth of proceeds. Do you know?
the actual hotel proceeds.
Like where I'm going with this, we could be on the hook for $96,000 here potentially, right?
Correct.
Are we making at least 96,000?
Yes, in
How
the
much are
hotel
we
tax
making?
fund, yes, we do make at least that with the hotel tax fund in November.
And what is that number? Do you know
I
roughly?
don't have that off the top of my
Okay,
head.
I'd
I
like
can
to
get that.
find out what that
Okay,
is,
I can
so,
get that.
That's all I have for J13
Okay,
and
thank you.
J14. I do have a question on J14. I was looking through all the documentations there. Was there a particular document here that sort of lays out the streets specific that will be fixed, so to speak?
So good afternoon, Ray Silvarez, Director of Public Works. So this contract here is just to lock in the unit price bid item. And so what we do is we take this is for citywide. There's no, there's for different pavement treatments that we're going to do.
Right.
Crack seals, reconstruction of roads, resurfacing. So it's just locking in these prices right now. We're developing based on the pavement assessments, and we're going to present that to council here soon as we get it all squared away to let them know what type of projects we're going to be undertaking in the future.
Yeah, I was just going through some of the contract documents, and they seem to lay out, 1,000 feet here and 200 feet there, but they don't really say the location of that.
Right, so what staff did is, from the previous year, they saw how much quantities they did from the previous year and kind of said, okay, give or take, that's what we kind of do each year. And so we get about $2 million to transfer into the general fund for streets repair. And so that's where we try to quantify those and say, this is about what we're going to do, so much for this, so much for that, but they're still not allocated to a certain project yet.
Okay, yep, thank you. I'm in favor of this. I just would like to know where these improvements are going to be throughout the city so we can share with our residents this particular street, this sidewalk, whatever is going to be repaired, so we can give them some updates as to when it might occur and how long it might take. So.
Absolutely. So we have the pavement condition index study that's going to be coming up here soon, and it will show you exactly where some of these are going to be allocated, and then some are just our maintenance and operation type
Okay,
needs.
thank you. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Villafranca?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Councilman Roman?
Nothing for me.
Thank you very much. Next up is item C2, discuss proposed park amenities and cost estimates associated with the Squire Park development.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present Squire Park project. And this item was requested by Council Member Roman. My name is Sarah Bradley, and I'm with the Parks and Recreation Department. And joining me today is Mark with the Park Superintendent. And we're here tonight to review a menu of potential park improvements and receive your direction on how to move forward with redevelopment of Squire Park. To provide a little bit of background about Squire Park, the Squire Park is about 1.43 acre neighborhood park located in the Valwood Park neighborhood in District 1. Staff conducted a public outreach earlier this year, and the results were presented to council August 19th. And at this meeting, council directed staff to come back with a menu of amenities with the community input. From there, from April to June, we conducted a focused community engagement effort, and we received about 149 online surveys and had 99 participants across the 3 public meetings. Through this community conversation, it came up with a couple of items that they were calling for, and that was a dedicated walking path, sports court, splash pad, an upgraded pavilion, and playground as well. So in response to council's direction, we have developed a menu of potential amenities with estimated costs based on current industry standards and also based on a previous proposal that was provided for this park. So as you can see here, this menu outlines the amenities and costs. So with trail, it would be about $200,000. For a splash pad, $200,000. Playground updates, about $500,000, and this would include surfacing and shade for the playground. Pavilion, $100,000. Lighting, $100,000. Basketball court, $100,000. Turf, soccer, would be about $250,000. Parking spots, if that would be included, that's about $100,000. Design and engineering would be about $150,000. Demo, utilities, grading would be about $175,000. And then contingency would be about $100,000. And that's based off of $1 million, which is currently the available budget for Squire Park. Just to give you a visual overview of the different items here, and also the associated costs, to provide a walking path, you see here again, it's the $200,000. The splash pad visually here showing of the pavilion, about the $100,000 cost that it is, which is very similar to the one that is proposed for Dutch Village that we had previously beforehand. And also the estimated cost for the playground updates. Lighting as well here, which could range from security lighting or just decorative lighting within the park. The basketball court as well, the turf soccer, and then the parking spots. And this is kind of based off of the estimate of 12 parking spots. So the next 2 slides that we'll be showing here are site plans concept plans that were proposed in 2022 and 2023. And so it will show you here the circulation pattern, a splash pad, play area, and that's a kind of design concept just for you all to visualize if you were to put everything together in this park. And this is the first proposal. It shows a walking path, basketball court, splash pad. And we'll move to the second slide, which we propose here. They remove the walking path, but then you have parking there that's shown up to the right corner over there, and a basketball court and a playground as well. And just to remember, these were proposed back in 2022 and 2023. So with that, tonight we're asking for your direction on which amenities to include in the redevelopment of Squire Park. Once we have the guidance, staff will move forward with the design service to develop a redefined concept plan, and then return back to you with that concept plan for your feedback. So also, I just want to remind you that the amenities that were proposed here are actually rooted in resident feedback and designed to support long-term use and potential neighborhood identity. That completes the presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have, and we also have Mark Moffett that will be here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Can you go back to the menu slide?
Sure.
If you would, please. And I just have one question before I turn over to others, and that is, with whatever work that's going to be done, the engineering fee, design and engineering fee, that's going to be a cost, comes right off the top?
Yes, it will
Okay.
be, yes.
All right, so, and the contingency, we have to set that aside correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so if we have to do demo and utilities, grading and all that, that's, I would assume that's, again, one of those initial costs. So that's $325,000 right off the top goes to those items. So take that million, reduce it by 325, right?
Yes. And that would be your cost that you would have
Yeah.
left, your balance left to.
Okay. All right. Councilman Roman?
Thank you. Thanks for putting this together. I think these are some really great options, and I really could see any of these really being successful in the community. I do want to circle back on I guess our last discussion a little bit, because I know that there were some expressions about not wanting to move forward with the splash pad, and I feel compelled to sort of want to address that a little bit. Because I don't know that we actually had a very thorough discussion about those items, and kind of what I wanted to propose was maybe we try and have our staff address those concerns, if at all. I know that one of the concerns that was brought up was homelessness potentially being attracted to that area. And so, you know, can we look at that? Can we look to see if that's an issue? I know that there was maybe not in the confines of the chambers here, but I think externally there was mention that it was comparable to another amenity in Dallas. You know, let's compare and contrast the similarities between those. And let's look and see, are the circumstances that exist in Dallas substantially similar to those that exist here in Farmers Branch that would lead to the belief that homelessness is going to be an issue if we move forward with some sort of splash pad? Are there ways to mitigate that? You know, that's one of the things that I want to make sure that we look at. I know maintenance cost was a concern. I want to make sure that as we're comparing any and all of these options, that we have an idea of what maintenance is going to look like on an ongoing annual basis. And then also comparing that to some of the other parks. What would be a normal range for maintenance costs so that we can have a better understanding of if we went with the splash pad, is the expenditures, are they normal and consistent with the maintenance of any other park? Or are they exorbitant above and beyond what's considered normal? And then I know use throughout the year was also mentioned as something that was particularly of importance to ensure that a park is not going to be unusable, or at least a portion of the park isn't going to be unusable for a period of our 3-week winter that happens in Texas. And so I imagine that in the century that we're in at this point, that there might be solutions to ensuring that the amenity is, as a splash pad, could be multi-purpose so that it can be used when it's warm and when it's not. And so I wanted to make sure that, given that when I looked at the report, splash pad was one of the things that was most highly requested, that we do our due diligence to ensure that any concerns that we may have, we either verify them as a valid concern that prevents us from moving forward, or we can say, hey, this was a concern at one point, but now that we've thought about it, talked about it, and had our staff do some research, we've realized that we've removed that objection for a splash pad so that we can go ahead and move forward. I think, and just from my perspective, whether it ends up being an amenity where it has a splash pad, or an amenity where we don't have a splash pad and maybe have, you know, a turf soccer, which I think would be incredibly successful in that area and very highly used, I just want to make sure that because it gains so much excitement and momentum in the community, that we give it the due diligence and conversation that it requires. Maybe some of these conversations will happen and continue to happen beyond my time on the city council. But at the very least, I want to make sure that as our residents are watching and we're having a conversation about what a park is going to look like in their neighborhood, that they see that we're not only wanting to make a difference and investment in that area, but that we're really being thoughtful and purposeful about what we put there, and not just tossing something out at the thought of some sort of concern, whether valid or not. So I kind of wanted to, maybe pause there and see if there would be any willingness to have a conversation about trying to get our staff to research some of these concerns and see, are they valid, and if there's a path forward that can address these concerns to move forward with the splash pad. And if not, again, that's okay. I'm not tied to it, but again, it was very popular in the data that was provided. So I just want to make sure that for the residents who are watching, they know that we really thought about this and talked about it.
Councilman, thank you for your comments. Yeah, let me just remind everybody, while staff is looking for direction to proceed, we are under no obligation to make decisions this evening. And what will happen, if we want to have more discussion about this, then we can certainly do that. And this will just be brought back up again, whether it be the next meeting or next month. So let me just put that out there. Councilwoman Bennett?
I have similar concerns. I was wondering, I mean, we see this list, but can you tie it to, like, how many people wanted a trail? How many people wanted the splash? Prioritize it by, the request level, so we know what we're looking at and what people are actually wanting in that area and the level with which they are wanting it.
Yeah, I can share with like the online survey, the different percentage that were provided. For the neighborhood splash pad, it was at 14.6%. The walking path was at 14.4%. More shaded area was at 13.35%. Additional playground was at 11.52%. And this is from the online survey here. And then just kind of going through Vivian Fields when we went there to actually the students. The walking path was the highest at 16.3%. Additional playground was 11.2%. And then the neighborhood splash pad was at 10.20%. So it varied there, but the splash pad and walking path and the shade definitely came up, and the additional playground that they all wanted to have in that playground.
Okay, and then have we researched, are there any grant, like specifically the trail? Because I know at Rawhide, we're using a grant for the trail over there. Or are there funds in a different grant that could cover some of these other items?
I can say we can investigate the grants at this time, but would it be something that we could do ourselves?
We're still working, Mark Moffitt, Park Superintendent. We're still working on that. We're hoping to work with Ray and Public Works to possibly see, they already have a trail system that runs down Dennis Lane. And depending on what size it would, we possibly might be able to tie into that to add that trail through there. It just depends on how we could work that with him on that.
Okay, so if that happens, then we take 200,000 off of this total, because that's taken from a grant funding.
Yes, possibly, but depending on the width of the sidewalk, if it breaks out as being a sidewalk part or if it becomes a trail. And they're using their trail money as the width, depending on the width of it. It's right now, the trail ranges anywhere between 8 foot to 12 foot. And then a standard sidewalk normally is 4 foot.
Right.
So it balances between 4 to 6 foot being a normal sidewalk or an actual trail.
Okay. But again, if we choose the trail and we choose the trail width, because that's what a trail is, then we could possibly have grant money for that.
Yes, ma'am. You could possibly knock off, say, 150 or even a little bit more, and then the smaller sidewalks within the park, that would be that. Or we would go with the wider trail, but the more wider you put the trail, the more real estate you lose of your
Correct.
park on what
Correct.
the amenities you can have on the inside of it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Councilman Reed?
One of the concerns I have is, in that area, is parking with the roads the way they are. So it seems like with a new park and upgraded amenities, whatever they are, if we don't provide parking, it's going to create a bit of a nuisance for the neighbors. Because as we've seen with other parks, it's going to pull from areas other than just the immediate neighborhood. So per what the mayor was talking about earlier, already with the contingency, the demo, the designing and lighting, we'll need lighting. That right there is 525,000. Parking, an additional 100,000, that's 625. Right now, we have playground on there, I'm assuming, and perhaps you can provide me with more info, that part of what they're looking for is upgrade, to upgrade the playground area as well, because that's primarily what it's being used for now, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's an additional 500,000, so right there, we're at 1.125. That's before we even get into any of the other amenities. So I think we have to pick and choose carefully, because those, the ones that I listed already just seem to be the minimum required, if that makes sense. So with that, and it'll depend on how much additional we want to add to it. If it currently is $1 million, potentially 1.1, 1.2, if we can get the grant money applied. So we've already kind of hit that ceiling. So one of the things we'll have to look at is how much additional money we're looking to apply to this park. I think it's important to expand upon it, provide this amenity to that area. It is an underserved area from that perspective. But we also want to use our money wisely. And as Councilman Roman pointed out, there's been conversations in the past, and like from a splash pad perspective, how much time throughout the year, I know my kids wouldn't want to be in a splash pad in the middle of December, even though it's outside the 3-week winter window that we have. Same thing, January, February, March. So I'm hesitant to consider that aspect of it just from the usage, because if you use that, then you're taking away a significant amount of space that could be applied to another amenity that could get more usage. So that's where I am.
Thank you. Councilwoman Villafranca?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for putting this on the agenda. I'm so glad that it's starting to become very real. I'm 100% in favor of the park, but there are a few things that I am concerned about, the splash pad being one of them. We just finished cementing over the previous fountain or the water feature over at City Hall because of the astronomical cost of maintenance from year to year. I know that we've looked at Valley View and Webb Chapel, the fountain that's there. We've looked at the possibility of maybe shutting that down and turning it into something else because of the maintenance. That's one concern that I have. I think the Valley View Webb Chapel fountain, I think is like $40,000 a year, which, a nickel here, a nickel there, it starts to add up. My other concern is the issue of the unhoused. The train station is right there. We've recently shut down the fountain over at Mustang Station because that had become sort of the baiting house of the unhoused. And the fact that it is so close to the train station is a little bit of a concern to me, because I think that this is going to create a problem that will be difficult to control because it's not monitored. It's not, being taken care of by anybody at any given time. The other thing is, the use of the facility of the splash pad year round, which is probably the least of it. When I was able to go to Vivian Field and to Squire Park and the little buckets that were there, I think everything was unsexy except for the splash pad. So if I was a kid, of course I'd throw all my tickets into the splash pad because that sounds like, the most fun. But really, if you drive by there, I've driven by there several times, the streets are very, very narrow. And even if it did add the additional parking spots, I think that this park it's really a pocket park. I think it would really create a lot of problems if we added the splash pad. With that being said, I think we would be able to get a whole lot more use with the turf soccer. And I don't see on either plan, I don't see lighting mentioned anywhere. I may be missing it though. And I do see something on the first proposed plan that says LED swings. Are those like fun, like light up kind of Hoya Park looking things? And if so, I love the idea. So the narrow streets, the parking, the train station being so close to that park, the other issues that we've had with our other water features that, you know, including City Hall, Webb Chapel, and Mustang Station really concern me. But I love everything else. I love the trail. And I just wish someone could just sort of talk about the lighting a little bit that I don't see on either plan. Thank you.
Councilman Neal?
Were you about to address the lighting or?
Yes.
No? Okay, I'll let you
I'm sorry.
address her
I
lighting.
was going to ask if I could speak about that. I don't know if you see the same thing we're having there. What it would be as far as lighting, it's under pavilion. That would be park lighting as far as light poles in the park with possibly also with the normal park lighting while the patrons are there. There would also be security lighting in the evening after hours so that the park still stays safe. If y'all would like, on the splash pad, I will go ahead and let you know that part of Parks Department in the winter months, we winterize even the dog fountain, the dog splash pad, drinking water fountains. We start November 15th and we shut them down until about March 15th, April 1st. And that is because we totally disassemble, degut everything because it becomes very pricey fixing those items because they freeze up. And it's not really that it's the air temperature that is what causes it to freeze versus the actual freeze. So I just want y'all to understand that it would be shut down from November to about April 1st.
So that's 4 or 5 months of not using. That's another reason why I would be opposed to the splash pad. But could you also address the lighting? I remember when we talked about the trail, the walking trail, I remember that it was really important to residents to ensure that there was enough lighting for people to walk on that trail in the evening.
Our goal is to, with design, is to go ahead and have them design it so that there is lighting there. With this being said, it also, we kind of have to we have $1 million to spend unless we're adding more or taking away, but we have to know where we're at to start our design process.
Thank you.
Councilman Neal?
Thank you. So if I add up this presentation of amenities and estimated costs, comes to about 1.975 million, if my math is correct.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me how much do we already have set aside for this or put aside? I know some years ago we had allocated some money for this, and is that part of this 1.975 million?
We have 1 million that has been set aside. The original funds that were for that were ARPA funds, and they were moved to another project, so we didn't lose those funds. So the city put in CIP, regular CIP, the 1 million for that.
Okay, so if we were to do all of these things, it would cost us 975,000, or am I missing something?
That is correct, but I don't think we have that much real estate to do every one of
Okay,
those
I'm
items,
just-
so
I'm just trying to look at the
Yes, sir.
numbers here
Yes, sir.
and see everything. I do echo similar thoughts that council has already presented regarding the splash pad issues. I don't need to rehash that, but I have similar types of concerns around that. But can you tell me how many other parks do we have that have a splash pad?
This would be the first.
This would be the first one, okay. Okay, and then just for a few extra comments, is I sort of like the phase 2 option, or the option number 2. My understanding from that area that residents were quite interested in seeing some more parking. So if that, for no other reason, I kind of like that aspect of adding some parking in there to help that neighborhood a little bit, minimize some of the, as you know, we have parking issues already throughout
Yes, sir.
different parts of this city, so.
The parking area there, and it's only from experience with that area, and understand there's two conceptual drawings. They were from several years ago, or at least 3 years ago. Coming back and looking at some of this, and this is where the whole design aspect starts, and it's a personal opinion is all. You already have a lot of parking that is on the Squire side of the road, and the residents use that area as a parking area. The Richland side is a lot wider of a street, and it would benefit if you were going to straight off the street parking, if that is feasible. And I'm not trying to sell you, persuade you anyway. It's just, that's going to be some different design aspects when we do come back to you in October to authorize us going and moving on with the design feature aspect of it with them.
Yeah, it's just my recollection that, and the residents were really interested in seeing some parking, because without additional parking there, users of that park would also be taking up additional space there on the roadway. So if we can somehow design it with some additional parking, I think that might be helpful. I too would also like to get some feedback before any full decisions on the splash pad. As all the comments that have been made so far, I'm not so much a big fan of it, but I do think it's worth hearing a little more regarding if there are any health hazards. I know Arlington had an issue with some health hazards regarding some equipment that they had, and I know we do a good job of water management and maintenance. But I just would like to know a little bit more about that. And you did mention that it seems as though if you shut it down November through, which was it, March?
About,
So that's about 6
let's say
months,
April
right?
1st.
So we really get about 6 months worth of use out of a splash pad, and I just
Yes,
want
sir.
us to be cognizant, is it worth the additional expense there? But
May I add one thing? One of your
sure,
questions?
go ahead.
One of the things that we're also looking at is we're not looking at a recycling thing that Arlington has had issues with, because you're adding extra costs because of the chlorinating. It's the same as the pool. When you're creating a pool situation, you have to have chlorine pumps and everything else. Us putting in a splash pad, we're going to use the concept that we use at the dog park. It's going to be a pass-through system, so it's sanitary sewer. It's on a timer. They push the button. They run through. They get wet. It's off. It goes down the sewer. The recycling of the water, it tends to pose a lot of threats that are unwarranted when you can just pass through the water to the sewer.
So are there additional infrastructure costs with putting this in? Is that already included here in the
It
engineering?
is
or the-
included in the cost for
Okay.
the sanitary sewer.
Okay. That's all I have for now, Mayor. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. I just have a couple comments. So you take $1 million, and I'm going to try to be as quickly as possible. $325,000 right off the top for the contingency design work and the demo and grading. Okay. If you put in some parking, whether it's on the north side or the south side, whether it's on Squire or Richland, still $100,000 roughly. And then if you're going to do that, you need to have lighting for security. So that's $475,000 right there. That's coming off the top. Okay. Assuming no grants or anything, because we can't assume grants because that's not a given.
That is correct.
Then if you put in a pavilion, a basketball court, that's $200,000. That leaves you $275,000 for limited playground updates. You've got $500,000 here. That leaves $275,000. So, but I think overall, parking's a concern. In my mind, if it's on Squire, our residents who live on Squire, who are tired of parking on the street, going to be parking in this parking lot instead of parking on the street. So who are we building the parking lot for? I think that's a question that needs to be thought through a little bit more. And then I would encourage everybody to go downtown Dallas and right this time of year is perfect weather. Carpenter Park is a perfect place to go watch and see a splash pad that has become a public bath. And I do have pictures on my phone of it, and that's problematic for the area. So the last thing I want this council to do is do something that's going to create problems for the residents of the neighborhood. And not saying that it will, but it's a concern. So in the interest of time, I'm not sure that we have general consensus on everything, except we know that we've got some costs that are going to be coming right off the top. So where does that leave everything else? And if you took the 475 off the top, the $525,000, 325, parking, lighting, that leaves you 475. And I think the council needs to rethink what can they get or what makes best sense for 475. So go ahead,
I've got
Council.
I was just,
comments.
I think there's, I was going to say, I think Councilwoman Villafranca and Omar both had some comments. They were trying to get your attention.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going to get to them next. So Councilman Roman?
Yeah, no, certainly hear everybody's concerns. I think really my point of all of this was just to say, like, I hear your concerns, but I also want to recognize that to some degree they're not really founded concerns just yet, right? Like, we haven't had our staff go and say, we've looked into this, here are some actual real concerns that we have. You can sit here and parse out some differences in Dallas. If you can talk about the urbanization of an urban area versus a suburban area, what key factors are contributing to homeless using that splash pad and all of that. But that's neither here nor there. I think one of the things that I really heard that was concrete was from Mark. I think you mentioned that the park would require disassembly for a period of time because the water that's contained within the mechanisms would freeze and it would burst. Am I hearing you correctly?
That is correct.
Okay. So I think, from my perspective, and again, like I said from the beginning, this was not something that I'm not like, it's a splash pad or nothing. I'm just trying to make sure that when residents watch this conversation, that they can see that we've had actual dialogue about some of these concerns. And it sounds like one of them, a very serious one, it has been founded where we're not going to be able to use that specific amenity. And given the limited funds that we have, it's not like hey, don't use a splash pad for 5 to 6 months, because there's several other things that you could do. So I just want to make sure that, if residents are watching, that they understand that the reason we're not putting a splash pad is because we have limited funds. There's only so much that we can put into that park, and putting something there that's not going to be able to be used throughout the entire year is going to potentially make a park unusable for a large period of time. So I think with that being said, I'm happy to sort of put the splash pad conversation to the side for now. And I think I agree with, some of the comments that have been made about, obviously we have to have a contingency. We have to have demo utilities and grading. We have to have the design and engineering. I think parking is something that it sounds like we all align with. And I think to, answer the mayor's question, I think, as parks close throughout the day at 10 o'clock every day, we'll have police patrolling areas, and they can figure out if someone's parked at the park past 10 o'clock, then we know that they need to be removed or ticketed, or something needs to happen with that. And I think, if it becomes an issue of parking, then I think we can coordinate with police and parks to ensure that there's some consistent monitoring to ensure that only the people who are occupying the park are the ones who are going to be occupying the parking if they need it. One thought that I had was, okay, let's say that we are basically just replacing all of the equipment that's there because, you know, there's only so much of a useful life for these amenities, right? So we have currently a pavilion, we have a playground, basketball court, and we have lighting, right? And so it looks like if we replaced all of those things for just newer things, we would be over budget. And so I think that sort of hits the nail on the head on sort of a conversation we had. I don't know if it was at the last meeting or a previous one, but you know, with regard to what we do with our excess funding, in order to have something that is exactly the same as what's there, costs have just gone up over the past 20, 30 years. And I think it requires more funding allocated to this park. You know, we can't just say we're going to do everything plus parking, the necessary things of design, demo, and contingency plus parking and lighting, and then say that's all you're going to get, and then there's just green space for you to do what, you know. I think just given the demographics of the area and the some feedback that I've heard from people about the existing turf soccer field, I think that could work really well in there. I know people use the basketball courts a lot. I think lighting is great. I think given the use of the area for family gatherings or events, I think the pavilion is also important. And obviously, like, I think a playground is just a very traditionally very essential and fundamental thing of a park. You know, the trail, the splash pad, I think those are things that we can sort of put to the side for now, but I think some of the other things are kind of pretty essential things to have. And so I'd propose that, you know, those would be the things that we include, and then, you know, reconsider allocating some additional funds to this park to ensure that those things can be captured in this refurb of the park, essentially.
Thank you. Councilwoman Villafranca?
Yes, thank you so much. I do think the parking is important, and I think the easy fix is just no overnight parking, and that takes care of it. When people have parties, you know, birthday parties, and you want to barbecue and have a piñata out there and there's nowhere to park, it can be kind of frustrating, I think, for people. I have a quick question. Is there enough room for the basketball courts and the turf soccer, or is it an either or situation with space?
Depending on the design of the park, it all depends on how it's laid out. And that's where we're going to have a designer take care of it. We looked at leaving the actual basketball court that's already there and utilizing it. Then you could move over to the west of there and possibly have that bigger area for the AstroTurf. Or we could totally change the park around to where we move the basketball court to the west and turn the court east and west as far as the AstroTurf. So there's plenty of things to do there. It's just getting to that point and going to the design aspect of it and shooting it the best that we can.
Okay, so based on my numbers, like, I'm up to 1.6, which is way over budget. But I do know that we have the budget surplus that we were considering looking at other needs that we might have in the community. And I know some can say this is not a need, this is a want. But I think that this park in the entire city is probably the most neglected park in the entire city. So if there is a way to come up with more money, I'm certainly in favor of the playground, the pavilion, the walking path for sure. That was really popular when I spoke with the residents, and the basketball and turf soccer. Then the parking, I think, is really important. So based on my numbers, like that would put us up to 1.6.
Thank you very much. Mark, I do have one question, then we've got to take a break on this.
Yes, sir.
And that is, as I thought about the fields, whether it be a soccer field or anything else, I've said all along what makes best sense to me is trying to acquire property adjacent to the park on the south side. It's not something that we have right now, but it would make a huge difference if we were able to get that and free up some additional space, which would make for a better field situation.
Yes, sir.
So I'd just like council to keep that in mind.
And I know that.
I will,
y'all
I will say
tried
that as of I think 6 months ago, they were approached and they don't want to sell. I think they said they wanted a little bit over $1 million for their property. So it was just an exorbitant number, I think, to hone in on the point that they weren't interested in selling. So there's that.
Eminent domain.
For park purposes, possibly.
All right, so I would like, I'm not sure that we have any resolution at this moment. I know staff is looking for direction, but I would like the staff to research possibly using eminent domain to take that piece, or to acquire that piece of property for public use.
We will probably need to redirect this one to the attorneys on eminent domain. That's going to be a very technical subject and very sensitive subject. So we'll ask for the attorneys to give us some legal guidance on that one, and we'll provide a memo to the council with some light feedback on what that looks like.
Understood. Okay. Good, good. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to read us into executive session right now for one item, and that is item D7. The city council may convene into closed executive session pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, personnel deliberation for evaluation of the city manager. We will be back out here at 6 o'clock. Thank you.